Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is part 4 of the continuation of the 7-inch rescue drone build. So we have the motors, the ESC, the flight controller, the receiver package, and the antennas all finished, and now we're going to do the continuation of the FPV and GPS. We have our receiver bundle done, and I checked everything's working there. We're going to go ahead and install our FPV camera and our VTX. Screw down onto the flight controller like that. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and attach it. I'm going to take these temporary screws out that just hold the flight controller in place. I'm going to take those out, and then I'm going to mount this like that so that I can do everything I want to do. Alright, so we have our VTX kind of just hanging off the edge here. And then also that's going to give some slack to these wires so we can basically pull those as tight as we want. Because we can just pull that connector off, and then this whole bundle will be out of our way. So first of all, we have our, so this is your VBAT line from your VTX. So we're going to put it right here on this VBAT pin. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So we're going to put that on that VBAT pin. Now VBAT for your VTX is important because we're going to change some CLI information, and in our user modes, in our modes, we can have a switch to turn this on and off for pit mode. So you want to make sure that your VBAT goes to this pad, because if you pull it off your battery or some other BEC, you're not going to be able to use that mode, as far as I know. And then we have our ground. So right here's our ground for our VTX. So we'll put that right there. And then we have our, alright, and then we have our smart audio. And I'm thinking about putting that on TX3. So we'll put it right here on TX3. And then that will be the power and control for our OSD for our VTX. And then simply these 3 wires coming off here will go to our camera. So the video coming out of our camera is going to go into our flight controller here on C1. And then it's going to leave our flight controller with OSD information from VTX pad going to the VTX out to our goggles. Okay? So the only thing that I'm using without hacking or cutting is the ground and the power. And this is just 5 volts. Now this VBAT pad, they say from the manufacturer, they said that this is filtered. So this should have, you know, some pretty clean power going to it. The VTX itself has filtration as well, so I'm going to assume that this 5-volt line is going to be heavily filtered. Not to mention I have a capacitor, so hopefully we'll get some really clean footage. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and depin this yellow line here, and then I'm going to put another pin in that, or I'm going to just cut that wire right about there. So I'm going to make that decision now. Just to mention one thing about connecting your VTX, you want to make sure that you connect your VTX to the correct voltage. There's a lot of VTXs that I've used that can only handle 5 volts. Of course, I run a lot smaller stuff, but and you stick VBAT onto a VTX that it can only handle 5 volts, you're going to have a major problem. So I'm just going to tin up this camera wire real quick. I could mention that, you know, you can power your camera here, and you can put your ground here, and you don't have to power it from your VTX. So we do have a 5 volt and a ground here for your camera, but I've opted to power and ground to my VTX. Now I'm using a second camera, so here's the second camera wiring. So I am going to end up using the 5 volt and ground, and then I will plug that one into C2. But that's for a different episode. Alright, we have our camera wiring done. I just want to mention one last thing. I'm going to plug it in, and I'm just going to make sure that everything's working. But I cannot stress this enough, that you need to, if you don't have a multimeter, then you need to get one. And you can get a decent multimeter. It doesn't have to be a real expensive one. I wouldn't buy one from Harbor Freight for $2, but that's me. So now we're just gonna check continuity here. So we have, we're gonna hear a tone. As soon as we hit this, we'll hear a tone. But as soon as that capacitor is charged up a little bit, then the tone goes away. Okay. So now there's no tone. If you hear that while you're holding these together, then there's a problem. So we're good. We don't have continuity between here, and we don't have any continuity between there. And then the next thing, before we fire this bad boy up, is we need to make sure that we have our antenna connected. It's fine to not have an antenna connected to your receiver, but on your VTX, you want to make sure you have your antenna plugged in. Power this thing up. You're going to be in trouble. I'm going to cut this insulation off here. It's in my way. Because you definitely don't want to put battery voltage to your VTX without having your antenna plugged in. Then we'll plug in the camera, and we'll just kind of give it a check out and make sure that our camera's working good. Just going to plug this in to my little 4S battery for my 3-inch. We're just going to check the VTX, make sure everything's working, make sure the camera's working. All right. Yep, everything's looking good. So we'll go ahead and get our GPS set up. Actually, the next thing we'll do is a buzzer. We'll go ahead and hook up a buzzer. All right, so we're gonna wire up a beeper here. I have a beeper, and I just got these from Amazon. It's just a bag of like 10 or something like that. I think it was like a bag of 10. I got 2 left. So yeah, I just put some heat shrink and then extended it with some silicone wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this. I've got a little bit of Gorilla, I don't know, tough and clear. It's silicone, and it is super sticky, and I like using it more than the 3M because you can pull on the corner of it and stretch it, and it doesn't pull your components off. So I really like that stuff. But basically, I'm going to have that wrapped around with a zip tie here on the back of the frame. and then we'll just solder that in. So I'll go ahead and get this zip tied down. Thought I'd mention while I'm zip tying this, there's a little sticker on the front. If you don't already know this, but before you just peel that sticker off and throw it away, it actually marks which side is positive and which side's negative. So you can see your positive line and negative. Okay, that little plus symbol means that the polarity of this beeper is you need to have your positive running here. Okay, so I just want to mention that before I stick this in place and peel the sticker away. Alright, so I have the beeper in place. So it's zip tied onto the frame here. And then I used some of that Gorilla, the sticky gooey Gorilla stuff, to go between the zip tie and the beeper. That's going to hold that beeper in there really, really stout. So no issues with that popping or slipping out of there. And then we'll just trim off the leftover and we'll wire it in. Alright, so we'll just put a little bit of flux on our pads that we're going to use. So we have beeper, our buzzer negative, and our 5-volt. And go ahead and tin up our pads. Okay, so there's our buzzer. So we have buzzer negative, and then our 5-volt supply for our buzzer. So then on an auxiliary switch or in the modes, I'll have a switch to turn that buzzer on. And of course it'll do everything in configuration as well. So that's the buzzer. Alright, at this point, we got our buzzer done. So now kind of going through what all we've got done and what we have left to do. So we have our camera stuff is done. We have our VTX done. We have our receivers done. Of course, we have the ESCs, motors, all that stuff done. So here's the receiver package stuff. We have our current, our telemetry from our ESCs. It looks like we're just about done. I'm not going to run any LEDs on this yet. I may add them later, but this would be the 3 pads you use for the LEDs. And this 3 line here is for a programmable buzzer. I just use the dummy buzzer, so I use just the 2 there. So it looks like we got everything done except for our GPS. So that'll be next. Alright, that's going to conclude part 4, and I hope this information has helped somebody out there. Part 5 will be the GPS and wrap up of the build. So I look forward to getting part 5 out very quick. I apologize, part 4 seemed to take so long, but this editing in between everything else, I've had a lot of camera issues. But anyway, really appreciate your time. I appreciate you subscribing, and I'll have part 5 out here as soon as I can. If you have any questions about what you've seen here in part 4, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I also have my email in there if you need to get a little quicker response. But alright, look forward to getting part 5 out. Have a great day. Thanks.